Good morning, everybody. Fiona Pearman and Kate Bora. And this week we're digging into feedback, but we're particularly looking at how to foster a culture of feedback. This is for leaders and for teams. How can we welcome in and make sure that feedback is part of the way we do something? What we know is when feedback is part of things, we're more likely to have innovation, collaboration. We're likely to be a higher performing team. So we know it's really important to think about that. And the first piece is thinking about what's required, what will actually create this culture. And we know that a big piece is that psychological safety, the trust, that atmosphere where it feels safe enough and secure enough that we can share things, we can share concerns, we can address what's not working without the fear of backlash or defensive or escalated emotions. And I guess the big part here is to normalize the expectation that we give and receive feedback in this team. It's part of how we do things, and it's part of what makes us good. It helps our performance. It's not personal.
Yeah, I think when we have a trusted environment where we can trust intent, where we're not making big assumptions that are radically different from the reality or other people's perspectives, it makes us a whole lot easier to show up and to be part of that feedback dynamic. And when we can understand that actually it's okay for us to have different perspectives and for us not to agree, and obviously there's, layers and complexity to that depending on the conversation you're having. But actually there's value in diverse perspectives, that it's not always about who's right or wrong, that sometimes it's the different perspectives that actually collectively can mean that we can land on a valuable decision or ideas or risk mitigation. That it's the sum of the parts that really delivers the value for the team's position. So I think that's really useful. I think the other thing is, and really important, we think about creating a culture where it's expected. Healthy debate, healthy perspectives are put on the table. Is that when we're in a room, when we're in a conversation, when we're in a dynamic where there isn't feedback being given, where maybe there is a lot of groupthink or there's a lot of silence, right? And a lot of what's not being said, that we actually challenge that. That we call it out, that we have a conversation around, is it just that everyone agrees or is something else going on here? That's meaning that everyone's staying quiet but actually has different perspectives. So we want to challenge maybe when we're not seeing healthy, robust feedback conversations, and of course, reward and recognize when we do see it.
Yeah, I think the next piece we want to dig into is it's really important to focus on building this skill and capability for giving and also receiving feedback. We've been talking a lot about this um, throughout the month, and I think it's important, firstly, as a leader, we always say leaders go first, which means it's beholden on you to role model both, role model your willingness to receive feedback, to lean into it, to ask people's perspective, to ask them, what could I have done differently? How could I have improved that presentation? How could I have done things differently? By illustrating the way you receive feedback, it's going to make it easier for others to do that. And you can also share your personal experiences. No doubt through your career, you've been given plenty of feedback. Some of it maybe you loved, some of it was maybe really challenging and hard. But all of those stories really help others appreciate that feedback can be a growth tool. It can actually be help us in our development, help us extend and expand our leadership capabilities. So the more willing you are to do that, I think it really helps others on their journey.
Yeah, I think when it comes to receiving feedback, encouraging people to be open to curious, to not judge and not be defensive. And again, you can model and demonstrate how you can go about doing that really well. And when we think about giving feedback, being prepared but not waiting to be perfect. It's one of the biggest roadblocks when it comes to giving feedback. It's like, oh, I'm worried about how it's going to land, and so we wait for it to be perfect, and perfection never arrives. And so again, modeling, hey, you know what, I'm feeling uncomfortable about having this conversation, or, this is going to land a little bit awkward or clunkily because I don't know how, I don't have the right words to say this, but we need to have this conversation. Being able to make sure that you're resource prepared, that you show up with positive intent, and that you explicitly articulate that when you are giving feedback. Again, all creates the container to have a really valuable, positive, meaningful, and impactful conversation.
I think the third thing we really want to highlight is it's really important that you integrate feedback into the regular rhythms, routines, and systems of your team. And it can't just be, we touch on this every quarter when we're having performance reviews. We want this to be part of the everyday way we do business, of how we interact with each other. And I think, well, firstly, it's important to have some opportunity for people to self-reflect, to think about, could I have done things differently, to ask themselves good questions and potentially ask each other. One of the things that we've seen teams do is, for each week, people are focused on one thing, I'm celebrating that I'm doing well, but one thing I know I could improve on if I did it differently. And those kind of debriefs and keeping it live and active can be really helpful. I think, we have a monthly pain point session with our team, and again, it's not about making it personal or someone's doing the wrong thing. It's more noticing, actually, this just doesn't work so well, or our communication here is off, or things aren't happening smoothly in a way that would be helpful. So we get into those discussions, and then we can actually think of new ways of orienting and working together that are more productive.
Yeah, and I think this really just talks to normalizing it, creating spaces, containers, expectations that number one, feedback is important. We're going to make time for it. Number two, everyone is expected to participate in providing feedback and receiving feedback. And we're going to do that. And even if it might feel really uncomfortable to start with, we're going to keep doing it until it just is something that we do. It's not a big deal. And that's part of the challenge when we think about feedback. It's got a bad rap because so many people have had really bad experiences where it's been done poorly, or they've been given feedback, 6 months after the fact, and they haven't had the opportunity to improve or do things differently. And that's having a big impact on their performance and possibly remuneration. I think the other thing in terms of, rhythm systems, processes, encouraging peers to connect with each other, to foster that environment where, they can go to each other, right? Active competence number 4 is ask for help, and where they can go to each other, get feedback from, again, particularly colleagues that maybe have different perspectives. And that takes a little bit of courage because they're going to have to show up and be prepared to listen to some things they don't necessarily agree with. But that can create a really valuable container, which can continue to build trust, but more broadly will really enhance team effectiveness.
Yeah, I think we're going to leave it there. If today's confidence conversation has been valuable and you'd like to share it, please tag people in your network. If you'd like to see more of these conversations, head over to our Core Confidence YouTube channel where you can subscribe, and there are hundreds of videos to dig into and quite a few on feedback now. And you can also see our Acts of Confidence alumni sharing their journey. And when you're ready to go deeper with your relationship with Core Confidence, you can visit our website, coreconfidence.com.au.